Hello to you all, and welcome to Pyramid Energy. I'm going to do a Celtic cross, and I've just made a decision to read what's coming at me. I have you here at the center in the Four of Wands. What this card is telling me is something is coming together, okay? It's coming together under circumstances that are unusual to you. This is what I'm seeing. What's also standing out is that these are like two of wands. And so it feels like a choice on either side of you, or on your side and another person's side. These choices are coming together at the same time, okay? In coherence, you are in coherence. Your mind and your body are in coherence, okay? So your mind, or you have allowed your mind to take a decision that you're going to support, and your body has agreed to support you in this decision. This doesn't mean that everything is going to feel easy, smooth, all of that. The main thing here is that your mind and your body are in coherence, okay? Your mind and your heart. That's to say, when your heart says to you, okay, I feel like this right now, then your mind is able to put your heart at ease because your mind knows the agreement that was made. Okay? And this is reciprocated. And so when your mind starts to wander off and start telling you, okay, this is how I'm feeling, this is not my best day, whatever, your body is going to recognize that and support you. Support your mind in feeling better. As long as the two are talking to each other. As long as the two are talking to each other, either will have concerns, okay? Either will have concerns. They will come up. But this is mainly a celebration, because to have these two in coherence, perhaps after a long time of feeling like it's not possible. It felt a bit like cat and dog, okay? What do you call it? Not cat and dog. Is it cat and mouse? I'm not sure. One is always chasing the other, and it just depends on the direction, but it's always a chase. We're not there. Okay, you're going to be walking through between these Four of Wands together. In the area of what's crossing you, I have the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. Okay, so this is, like I said, this is unexpected. It's not coming at a time where you've prepared for it for a long time and you knew exactly when it was going to happen. So yes, you've prepared a long time and you knew it would happen, but this is not how or when you thought that this would happen. Okay? With the Knight of Pentacles in reverse, it's also telling me that it's happening quickly. I don't get the sense of pressure. I feel like the pressure used to come at you from the outside, but I feel like you are now putting pressure on. It's like the pressure has gone to into its inverse form. I'm going to try and just explain this differently because I can see it. It's just not sounding very sensible. But pressure used to come at you from the outside, whereas now it feels like it's turned into responsibility. It's turned into responsibility, and so it's no longer landing as pressure. It's turned into responsibility. It's released of its sense of burden. The burden is gone. The burden has left with that sense of incoherence that used to exist in your body. It was consuming a lot of energy. The energy that was being consumed by this incoherence was going unseen. I'm also seeing you in some form of like a really steady rhythm. I'm watching this horseman on the horse's back, and it's moving. It's like not sure if, he's going in the right direction, or is it, but it feels natural. It feels like, when you've been dancing for a while, tapping your foot, let's say, leaning against something and you're tapping on your foot, and then only after some time you realize that, okay, number one, your body wants to dance, so release it to dance. But number two, it's like that tapping is effortless. Do you know what I'm talking about? And then before you know it, you're dancing, and you're dancing in a way that you've never danced before. But it's like, so it's kind of like checking yourself, but not wanting to stop because you kind of like it, even though it's kind of unusual and you didn't really ready yourself and you don't really care who's looking, and you just, it feels like that. Okay, this energy today is some other kind of way, but in a really good way. I have the star in your recent past. This is speaking to me about your healing journey. This is speaking to me about the kind of vulnerability that you have endured. And that's a strange word to use to describe how vulnerability feels, but it feels like you didn't feel like you had a choice, okay? And so there are a lot of things about you that you feel you wouldn't have necessarily exposed if you didn't have to, okay? It feels like your vulnerability was unavoidable. In order to heal, you needed to be exposed. You needed to reveal yourself. You needed to allow yourself, your emotions, your mental activity, a lot of yourself to be naked. That's how it feels. It's speaking to me quite a bit around a lack of feeling a control over your situation, your journey, not feeling in control. Okay, that's what it's speaking to me about. The way that the star is holding these two jugs, these vessels, pouring one onto land and one into the water, I'm feeling very much this questioning, this, should I tend to myself or should I tend to, like the river? It's like this question as to whether do I stop to heal myself or do I heal others? So it's been like this questioning about where to focus your healing, okay? I get the sense that for a very long time you felt torn in two, as if there are two parts of you, okay? And it's these two parts of you that are coming together. Which are these parts? There's a part of you that serves the star. There's a part of you that serves. And then there's a part of you that just is. Where you are, how you're feeling, what you're needing, okay? However, these two parts have not until now been working in coherence. They're coming together. The part of you that lives to serve is now going to be honoring the part of you that needs to heal. This is coherence. This is you not needing to choose the world or yourself. Okay? So how you see your world and how you see yourself are now in communication, speaking to each other, serving each other, living in coherence, existing in coherence, getting to know each other, no longer afraid of each other. Okay? Because I do feel this internal runner-chaser dynamic. I'm definitely seeing it. And it's as if you are finally ready to face, be in, sit in your own discomfort. So not running from your discomfort. Not necessarily feeding your discomfort. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to both these parts of you, your heart and your mind, the server in you, the healer in you, the human being in you, to work together for you and for those you serve. But you're no longer excluding yourself from the idea of those you serve. You are bringing yourself into that. Okay? Your senses are also sharpened. Your senses are heightened. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine running through a forest. You're running through a forest because you're running away from something. But then you stop and you find a spot to stand and watch what's happening around you. That's kind of the difference between what was happening and what is happening now. Is you've stopped in the forest to see what's moving around you rather than running. When you are the one running, do you recognize that there are so many, you're dashing from something, but there are so many sounds that you actually create yourself within that forest that you're running in. To the point where, when you stop, you might actually find that nothing was chasing you. You were running away from your own sound. You were running away from the echo of your own footsteps. But you realize, because when you stop running away, you realize that you're safe. You're safe. And all of those sounds were you. And so now, when you hear a stirring or you hear a rumbling, you're not going to run. You're going to listen to it. You're going to hear what it has to say. I have 11:11 on the clock. And in your near future, I have the King of Swords. When I saw this King of Swords, or what I heard was, no more lies. No more lies. That's pretty much it. No more lies. What does that mean? That 11:11 took me back to the Four of Wands. So that is, these wands actually look like two 11s. And so this is speaking to the coherence. This is speaking to the meeting of minds. The mind of your body and the mind of your mind. Okay, if that even makes sense. But what I'm seeing here is because of this compromise that has taken place between the two parts of you, there will be no more lies. Okay? So what used to happen is that the body used to speak a language to the mind to allow it to continue being the way it behaves. And the mind, in order to continue behaving the way it has been behaving, or the way it was used to behaving, was not being truthful to the body. This, in a sense, is their nature. It can be described as the nature of mind and body when they are not in coherence. And so, in a sense, it's not deception. It's not deception. It's rather just that, the absence of coherence. Okay? Because when a system is used to behaving a certain way for a long time, it will continue behaving like that until something comes in to disrupt it or interrupt it. And in this case, a compromise has taken place. We're no longer running, we're looking at each other, we've made an agreement. We've made an agreement, and so when the body says something, the mind now understands what the body is actually saying, rather than what the body wants the mind to think so that the body can continue to do what it wants. This works the other way around too. Okay? Every time I consider this idea of reciprocity between the heart and the mind, or you can call it the body and the mind, there seems to be some form of like a bigger sense of control that the mind has over the body. Okay? That's coming from my mind. But the message today has actually been quite clear that the power comes from this coherence that they hold together. This is a type of agreement that has taken place. And to assume that the body has no power is actually incorrect, because the mind cannot execute without it. This feels like one of those discussions or arguments between masculine and feminine, where we try to make them equal, but then when we really apply it, we keep attributing the strengths and the ability to take action. We lean towards the masculine, and then we tend to have this idea that the masculine is stronger, okay? Yes, when it comes to ideas like strength and structure, yes, that is masculine. But what does that all mean without substance? What does that all mean without cohesion? What does that all mean without expansion? And so I do believe through this channeling that we're actually looking at the role of the body more truthfully. Please excuse me if this reading feels too abstract. It's the way it's coming out, and it's the way I'm seeing it and experiencing it. And I believe it's coming out this way because we're all dealing with situations, different contexts, but the energy is what we're here for. When we attribute all the strength and power to the mind, what happens is that when the body or the heart says otherwise, the body and the heart then do not have an opportunity to support the mind by cooperating, okay? By cooperating with what the mind wants. And so there's this constant repeated sense of failure because there's no coherence. Whereas what's needed in that moment where the body is saying something different to what the mind is saying is that the mind can then listen to the body, not follow the body, but listen to the body, hear the body, and speak to the body to remind it what it's going through, to explain the truth. Because the mind has got access to the truth now. The mind has got access to the truth. And also so when the body or the heart experiences echoes from the past, okay, because now the body has the ability to hold memory. The body has the ability to hold memory. It just doesn't have that discernment to be able to say, well, that's from the past. This is in the present. The mind has got the clarity to be able to shed light on the body or the heart and say, no, you feel like that, but that feeling is actually from the past. It's from that place that you've walked away from. Remember? That's not the feeling you want. That is the reminder of what you used to believe before you realized that we can work together. You know, at that time when you used to run away, yeah, when I used to chase you, at the top of mind, I have the 9 of Pentacles, clarified by the 3 of Swords. I asked for clarity because the 9 of Pentacles sort of came out sort of on its side, as if it wasn't sure of itself. For me, the 9 of Pentacles marks sort of this process of building and accumulation and being able to sense and see and experience growth in one's life in whatever area they're looking at. And so for it to come out on its side is almost like, I'm building, but am I growing? Questioning whether how you are, the effort you're putting in is actually moving in the direction that you are trying to move it in. That kind of not sure, And the clarity of the 3 of Swords, that red of the heart, is actually taking me right into sort of the inside of her dress. And so what's coming through is that what she is not used to and why she is not sure of whether she's building correctly or not is because she is building in a way that's different to before. It feels different to before. She's acknowledging that she's in the process of healing. Okay, this is like the red of the heart is what you see inside her dress as she's showing up. Okay, as she's showing up. This is a very generous person that I'm speaking to right now. A very generous person, and a person where others, those she serves, he, she, I'm not focusing on the gender, it's just the card. The people that she serves are not always aware of how much work she puts in. This is not work in the sense of 9 of Wands, 10 of Wands, putting in the work, not like that. More like, how how many aspects of her need to collaborate in order for her to actually be able to share this generously, what she shares. So this is a time of your life where you're recognizing just how much you need to collaborate with yourself to be able to build. Okay, I got this all from the 6 of Pentacles on the left and the 3 of Pentacles on the right, working with those Pentacles and the 9 of Pentacles. In your subconscious, I have the Page of Swords clarified by the King of Pentacles. The Page of Swords was telling me you're still figuring things out. You haven't got it all figured out yet. And I asked, what are you figuring out? And I saw King of Pentacles, and this for me is speaking about figuring out your power. Okay, it's as if you know you have the power. So you know you have the power, but you don't have all clarity yet. You are learning your power. You know that you have this power, but you're now allowing yourself to get to know it through this newfound way of being. And so you are open to understanding your power. Okay. And also recognizing that you're actually in the process of creating your power, that your power has always existed, but you are now creating a relationship with your power. In a sense, what this is bringing up for me is that prior to this, your relationship with your power, you would assign your power to your creator. Okay? And so this allowed you to not take responsibility for your power. Okay, so you sort of relinquished that power to your creator, for example. Whereas now you're realizing that this sense of power is actually something that is nurtured as the creator of your life. And so you get to understand your own power. That's what's coming through. And so in a sense, it's quite, it's a big ask to just tell someone that they are powerful and expect them to just click into action and understand that. And so a lot of the time in those cases, we can tend to, depending on what we have the appetite for as well, right? We can tend to reassign our power to somewhere else because then we are not responsible for our power. It's almost easier, okay? But now you've reached a point where you know you need to build this relationship with your power. You're starting to actually need your power. You need your power, and so now you're going to fetch it. You taking your power back is very much what I'm getting here. It feels like, and I saw the tower underneath the deck. It feels like you had this major shift in perspective, okay? It feels like you were walking a fine line between having reassigned your power, okay, to a greater being and feeling powerless. So it's a fine line, because as much as we think it's got space, it's but you're the one in between, and where do you begin and where do you end? And once you've left so much of it once you've reassigned so much of your power, it's basically it could be 1 second between you and feeling powerless. And so you're recognizing that you're actually needing to get to know your power, because as soon as almost the mind says to you, but you don't have power, you're what? You're checking yourself. Who said that? What do you mean I have no power? I'm so powerful. And so it's as if you kind of saw that kind of negative self-talk between yourself, and you kind of, in that gap, you recognized that this whole idea about where your power sits has been causing a lot of instability in your life. Okay. And instead of just going back and reassuming all your power, you're starting gradually, and you're starting to just build this relationship honestly, in truth, gradually, not being harsh on yourself, taking your time and getting to know your power. In your advice, I have the 10 of Wands and the 3 of Pentacles. which is interesting because earlier I talked about work and I said not that 9, 10 of wands kind of work. I remember saying like that, something like that. And I also pointed to the 3 of Pentacles behind this lady and the 9 of Pentacles. When I look at these cards together, what I'm seeing is no longer feeling like certain things are necessary, okay? This is advice. And so this is advice to almost surrender to your own, where you feel pulled towards. This 3 of Pentacles, you see this guy standing on a bench. He's been working and he's ready to carry on hammering away. And here are 2 people coming, looking slightly confused. He's got the tools, he's using them, he's busy knocking away. And they're like, it's either they've got an instruction manual or a map, and they're either questioning what he's doing, or they're asking him to explain it to him or something like that. And he's kind of like, I'm just out here working, I'm just doing my work. And it's that sense of not feeling like you have to explain so much, especially with this Page of Swords and the subconscious. You're still figuring it out. And so this 10 of Wands, 3 of Pentacles is talking about relieving yourself of that burden of always having to know the answer and explaining yourself when you actually just, your work is to work. He almost has this I just work here kind of feeling. He's giving that. I don't know, I just work here. And then after some time, maybe they'll just pick up a hammer and a nail and start working as well. In a sense, this is telling me that you've been carrying this burden. Nobody actually told you to or asked you to, but you've been carrying this sense of responsibility to have certain answers and to be able to explain certain things. You've been carrying that responsibility, and they're saying you should never have been carrying that responsibility. It's unnecessary. Okay, it's unnecessary. And so this is more around just being and leading by example through just being. In your surrounding factors, I have the Ace of Cups, which is already telling me about the opportunity for love that's available, okay? It feels like the love and the opportunity around you is now available, okay? There's a sense that maybe before your environment was not ready for certain things, and so what's actually taking place here is that you are going through this shift because your surroundings are ready for this shift to take place. And so your environment has come together with your self, and you meeting each other halfway through. It feels like it's coming through as like evolution. And so you are evolving into this coherence and taking the opportunities, the invitations to actually come into coherence and start being more honest with yourself and start really looking at the things that are holding you back, because this is what's surrounding you. There are opportunities around you for love, value, okay? I don't want to say you've been missing out on this, because throughout this reading, definitely the sense that I've been getting is that it's just the readiness that's taking place now. You were not ready for all of this before. You were not ready to assume this responsibility over your power before, and now you are ready for that, which is why this has started to evolve in your space. In the area of what you want the most and what you fear the most is the Tower. I'm asking myself why you would fear a mindset shift, an altering of your perspective. Okay? What I feel here is, this lightning has me hearing thunder. What I feel here is you are still reckoning with the fear of your own power. You're still reckoning with that. You're also seeing through what you used to call a fear of failure. To say to yourself that you are afraid to fail is actually you running away from not failing. It's you running away from winning. And this is a win against yourself. This is not about anyone else. So there are times throughout the journey where we reckon with the fear of failure. And I'm not saying that the fear of failure is not real. But as far as your power is concerned, you have seen through your own lies is kind of what I want to say. There are lies you were telling yourself to keep yourself comfortable. So perhaps you called it a fear of failure, but actually holding that fear of failure is allowing yourself to not consider that you're actually afraid of your power. And then there's all these questions like, how will you handle it? What if your sense of power then creates something larger than you? But again, this is your mind running away with you. This process you're going through, it's some form of an awakening, okay? It feels like an awakening of the body to an extent. It's hard to put into words very clearly. But what I'm seeing taking place here is that instead of, this is not like some kind of a superhero, I have so much power, ta-da, all my power is out. It's not like that. This is a gentle and gradual relationship building journey with your power. That's to say that you are not going to get thrown into a situation where there's too much for you to handle. Okay, that fear is irrational because actually it's in the advice. Do not take on more than you're there doing. And so your role is to just be. If what you are is powerful, then be powerful. You know what I mean? But number one, you are powerful. Number two, you're no longer telling yourself you're not powerful. Number three, you're no longer telling yourself that you're afraid to be powerful. There are all these things linked to your power. More than anything here, you're realizing that you don't only want your power back, you need it back. You needing your power back is becoming like it feels like a matter of like survival. You know, survival. I asked for clarity and I got the High Priestess, which is interesting because it is really emphasizing the fact that you know how powerful you are. Okay, so you know how powerful you are, and it's been a fear of your power. When you believe something to be true, when you see something within yourself and you believe it to be true, there are times where you want to look away from it, because then that brings to question like, how true is it? Can I just think something, see something, and know for sure that this thing is going to transpire? That thing can only transpire if you actually know that it's true. Okay, this is the creation process. And so if I see something in my mind's eye, and I know that's something that's sitting in my future or something that I can create, the difference between that thing being created and not being created is the power I give it. Whether I believe it's real, whether I believe that it can be created. And so what's happened is that, remember I mentioned that reassigning of your power. What's happened is that your power used to sit with your creator almost externally, like, let's even call it God, but I don't want to confuse the discussion too much by saying that. Okay, so let's bring it back. What's actually happened is that you have brought your agency closer to this idea of who the creator is. You've bridged a huge gap. Yes, you're dealing with the fear of God, but yes, you're dealing with the fear of yourself. You're kind of bridging this gap. You're afraid that it's a lot of responsibility to be able to create as the High Priestess, okay? because that also means you hold a lot more responsibility in terms of your thoughts. You're afraid of yourself. You're afraid of your own power. Let that never be said again that you're afraid of failing, because you actually do not believe you're going to fail. I see that now, and I see all the stages, all the layers that you've put between yourself and this truth. I can see it now. Something else is coming through, and it's this idea that, when you used to need an answer, you would send out the question and then wait for the answer, and you'd, in time, receive the answer. However, you realize that you've actually always really had the answer. It's that distance between you and the answer that used to kind of exist and govern how long you sit without the answer for. And so what happens now is that even as you are asking the question, you're recognizing very quickly, they're like showing me a photograph with its like negative with it. Do you know what I mean? They kind of, that spool, I'm talking about the actual spool, like think old photography or whatever. What they're showing me is that as you're asking the question, it's as if you're already answering yourself. And so there's this awareness of like either you have the conviction or you don't have the conviction. And there's this awareness that on the other side actually exists like nothing. Okay, like it's like a void that you are at liberty to create out of. And so you're recognizing that you are the creator of the answer as the question is being asked. And I have it in the outcome, the Lovers and the Eight of Wands. This is like you actually coming to terms with this. This is you allowing your body time to adjust to this. Okay? And this is you making choices and watching as they are communicated into your world. This goes both ways. Okay, this feels like this Lovers card is also taking me back to like somewhat the Garden of Eden. It's like you now actually you've made this choice to be this aware of how things are communicated into your world. And so when you see something that you don't want to see, you are going to move into your position of choice and be reminded of your power. Not to say that you need to control that thing, but you're going to channel your power accordingly. So what you're not going to do is feed that thing that's not working for you with more power, with more of your power. That's not what you are going to do. It's only at this point that I'm recognizing that I feel like we recently talked about power and where it sits. So I feel like this is building on that discussion. This energy felt heavy to work through, dense, but I felt like I was carried through it. Interesting energy. I hope that you found it helpful and that it brought you clarity. I hope that when you reached points that didn't make sense, that you did not force them to fit. Should you wish to support the channel and can, I've left details in the description box below on how. Sending you all so much love.